Okay.
For me, it's nice when other people have the episodes to themselves because then you get a break. We work really hard, really long. It's really fun though. For Madison to do one, I don't know. I think I would love to explore her backstory, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'd have some days off for that too, because it'd be young Madison. I don't know. I mean, these.
Played by Alycia Debnam Carey.
I'm so surprised by every script I get. I'm just blown away at the talent and the story the beautiful stories they write for us. So I don't know. I'd leave it up to Dave. I'd be surprised, I'm sure.
Okay.
No more breaks.
Another
That's
question
good.
out there?
Here's one right here.
All right.
Hi, I'm Megan. My question is, what modern convenience would you miss most if you're in a genuine zombie apocalypse?
That's it.
Yeah.
Ourselves?
Yeah, that's your first,
What would yours be?
Oh, showering.
Beds, like beds.
Like good comfort food.
Soap.
There's too many.
Gummy bears.
Like general heat, probably
Wine.
at night.
Wine.
You can find wine.
Okay.
I'm definitely finding wine. You can make booze, yeah, you can do that. Miss avocado on toast. Wine and spirits in your manual?
No, they're all teetotalers on that ranch.
Yeah, really, yeah. He has his booze hidden away. But.
Oh, that's right.
For just also, Dave and Gail, if you could talk a little bit about, Daniel Sharman couldn't be here, but Troy, the character of Troy, new to this season, what he adds, the wild card effect that he sort of has, because this episode seemed to table him a little bit because he and Nick came to this weird understanding at the end. As both of I guess they're the sort of the problem childs of their respective families, but what does Troy add as far as what we can expect? Is he more of an ally? Will he become that later on, or is he always going to be a danger?
He's always going to be a danger, and I think what's interesting, I mean, Kim spoke to it earlier, is I do think your scenes in this episode with Dayton, it is about manipulation. You know, the reason you share your father, dad was an alcoholic, the reason why you admit that Nick was an addict, it's really because you're starting to understand who this family is and you're figuring out what are the toeholds. And I think the interesting thing to consider with Troy and with Nick, because look, Nick's big debate in this episode is the question of, okay, he's clearly a threat. He did horrible things. My girlfriend was shot because of him. We can't possibly stay. But the thing about Nick that's interesting is, I mean, he is and will always be, he is an addict. And it's really now a question of, it started with, when we met him, he was using heroin. Season 2, he really got close and, up close and personal with the dead. I think there was something in that sort of self-destructive quality. And so strangely, in this dangerous relationship with Troy, he sees there's a shared darkness, I think. So Ryan Scott wrote this episode, and there's in that lab, again, it's another scene which I thought came out quite beautifully, and I wasn't sure on the page. It was one of those moments of sort of leap of faith. Let's see how this goes on the day. And it worked really well. So I think as we move forward, I do think you're going to see a strange connection. It's never going to be trust, but I do think our family is going to get to a place where they've managed to, I think, manipulate and ingrain themselves enough in this community that there's a modicum of safety, But it's like, but then we definitely see Madison working Otto. We're going to see Nick getting a little bit closer to Troy, and then Alycia will get into that as well as the season moves forward.
And the other thing is that in casting the role of Troy, that's a really difficult one. And I think Daniel Sharman just does a fantastic job because there's something still charismatic about him. And you could very quickly go sort of dastardly with it, and there's so many layers of his performance. And when you see that, I can't pronounce Teotihuacan, whatever. Yeah. when you see the video and see how he was treated from the time that he was small, you have this you get this sense of pity for him. Yet he's the one person that wouldn't want to be pitied. But anyway, I think that Daniel just does a fantastic job.
Another question out there? Yes.
Yeah, so there's definitely been a lot of badass moments for Madison physically, but also noticing just that development that you were talking about with regard to being able to learn about people's history and then using that to your advantage. It seems like that's even becoming a greater strength. I wonder if you could talk about if there's a backstory related to her ability to do that, and if that plays prominently going forward.
Just from being a counselor and working with the teenagers, I think is part of her. Her education comes with personality assessment and psychology of people, and beyond that, we find out more about Madison's earlier life later on.
Yeah, I mean, she understands psychology. She definitely she understands Troy, and I think you're right. I mean, Daniel, the danger of that character is that he can play psychopathic because he is, but there is an interesting vulnerability that he brings to it, which is what saves it, and it's the thing that I think Madison keys in on, because she knows there's something darker and disturbing, something that started much younger, and I think slowly she sort of. Madison's solving the mystery of the Ottos and why Troy is what he is. And as she does that over the course of the season, we will get a little bit more information about Maddie's backstory and what made her the way she is.
And another question?
For Alycia, do you think that for Alycia, being around people her age would help her share and separate from Madison?
Actually, I think her being around people her own age actually highlights how different she is from them now, and that group, that age, that demographic. She's seen too much now and she's been through too much that she's never going to have that college experience or that kind of easygoing time of her life. I just don't think that exists for her anymore, which is sad. And it's I think in that moment where, that scene, one of the kids asks, so what's it like out there? And she looks around the room and realizes, wait, none of you have actually seen what's out there. None of you have experienced any of it. And this episode and the episodes following too, a lot of her trying to fill a void and trying to fill some sort of experience that she never had, but to no avail. I think she starts to realize that she can't, she's just beyond that. And she's now stuck with the morbid reality of kind of being in some self-destructive family and environment that's, beyond anything happy, unfortunately.
Great. We're going to take one more question, and then we're going to wrap things up, but, okay.
I was just wondering how you guys went towards getting the role. Did you audition? Where did you think you first saw the script?
Dave called me.
Yeah, he didn't audition.
He did. Dave called me and said he had this character that he was thinking of me for, and we worked together on Sons of Anarchy, and of course worked with Kim for all those years, and it just jumped at the opportunity. So we explained a little bit where the character was going to go, and just trusted him and said, "Let's go." Thankful to be here. So that's how I got here.
I sent in just
got this new... A lot of money?
Yeah, a lot of money. No, I just got this new agent, and this was one of the first auditions that they sent me on, and it was just to do a self-tape, and I really thought, I had no idea what the genre was, and but I read the material, and the material was so beautifully written. I thought, oh wow, this is exciting, and I did a self-tape of it at home, put on a electric blue Hugo Boss suit. That's what I thought for some reason this character was, and then I just left it alone and I put it out there. I just thought, we audition all the time. And you always think you'll never hear anything, and then to my surprise, I heard something, and it was the first time as an actor, and I'll just say this to our executive team here, is that the first time as an actor, you weren't put through so many hoops. They knew what they wanted pretty quickly. And so it was just a self-tape that I did in my living room, and they saw something that they liked, and they cast me.
It was more of a roundabout experience for me. I was actually doing a pilot with AMC, and then that one wasn't picked up, and then they brought me, and I had heard that they were then casting for this, and they said, oh, well, we're in kind of more the final stages, but we'd love to have you in if you can make it. And then from that point on, it was actually very, very fast. I've never had an experience that was so quick in the same way. And then, yeah, I got the job pretty quickly, and then I got to test with everyone, which was really fun. I didn't get to test with you, though. I tested with like 7 versions of Madison. Yes, you were by far the best one. The best choice. But I remember testing with Frank, and that was really interesting because at the time I'd read, this is a fun story actually, I'd read only the dummy sides. They usually send out fake sides when you're auditioning, so they can't be leaked and the story doesn't get out. And the name was actually Ashley on the sides. And I remember then auditioning with Frank, and he kept calling me Alycia in the audition, and I was like, oh my god, this kid's so method, like just having met Frank for the first time too, who's so kind of awkward and I mean sweet and wonderful, but like I thought, wow, this is getting really intense straight away, like calling me my name in the scene, like what's going on? And then it wasn't until after that I was like, oh, they've changed the name. That wasn't the name. But yeah, I got to meet Cliff as well there. I kind of got to see everyone. It was really cool.
I auditioned, and I did.
Yes, and you were a sport, and then you came back again because we.
Yeah, and then I auditioned, and then they asked me to do a chemistry read with Cliff Curtis. So we did that. It was fun. Filmed that like a screen test.
Yeah, I mean, and Cliff bounced back and forth in New Zealand, I think 3 times in that process. I'd call him and say, can you get back on a plane and come back? And he's like, yeah, maybe I'll be there. He was great.
Guys, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out today. Thank you, Dave, Gail, Kim, Alycia, Coleman, and David for coming out. And enjoy the rest of the festival this afternoon. It ends today, and thanks, everyone.